Somebody said if you don't like playing with LeBron, you wouldn't like playing with Kobe. Bro, you guys got to stop these narratives, man. It's not that I didn't like playing with Bron, you guys. And I don't want to go into detail about it. Some of y'all comments just be so asinine. Like when I was in Cleveland and I was a young player, I had no idea Bron was going to.
Kyrie Irving just dropped a bomb that could shake one of the biggest legacies in basketball history. And the wildest part is that he did it with a single sentence. There was no flashy press conference or dramatic sit-down interview, just a calm, offhand remark during a random live stream that instantly sent the internet into chaos and sparked non-stop debate across the basketball world.
Love to have started my career with, I love Cleveland, don't get me wrong. I'm appreciative of all the things that they've done for me, but at the same time, I would have loved to choose the franchise I wanted to go to. You know what I'm saying? I would have loved to develop next to some of my favorite players and some of my favorite people. Because being a young player, when you're on a team that's not winning a lot of games, there's a lot of bad habits that form. And that's what ended up happening to me when I was very young. I had a lot of bad habits. I was not a winner. I was not a good loser.
The moment Kyrie Irving said it, LeBron fans erupted. Comment sections turned into battlegrounds, memes flooded every platform, and basketball Twitter went into full meltdown. This wasn't just any former teammate speaking. It was Kyrie, the one who stood next to LeBron in the biggest moments and saw everything up close. What made it chilling was his tone. He wasn't angry or bitter. He looked straight into the camera, calm and controlled, and said that once his playing days are over, the real story about what happened with LeBron will come out. Then he added, "Trust me." That wasn't a threat. It sounded like someone who had stayed silent for years and was finally ready to talk. Almost instantly, panic filled his replies because LeBron's most loyal supporters knew exactly what Kyrie was hinting at. If he ever unloads what he knows from behind those locker room doors, it wouldn't just be drama. It could force people to rethink basketball history itself. To understand why that single sentence hits so hard, you have to go back to the beginning, before LeBron ever returned to Cleveland. Kyrie Irving didn't choose that situation. When he was drafted first overall in 2011, the decision was made for him. He landed in a city still broken from LeBron's departure, on a roster with no clear direction, no identity, and no real help. Kyrie was a young phenom with generational skill, but night after night he was dragging a losing team through meaningless seasons. He later admitted that those years warped his game, forcing him to become selfish just to survive because no one else could score. That frustration built quietly over time, long before LeBron came back into the picture. By the time LeBron announced his return in 2014, Kyrie's career was already shaped by tension. Kyrie didn't become a one-man show because he wanted to. He had no choice. Just as he was finding balance and stepping into leadership, everything changed overnight. At 22 years old, entering the season where stars usually take full control of their teams, the biggest name in basketball walked in and took over the franchise, the spotlight, and the narrative. One day it was Kyrie's team. The next, he was a piece in LeBron's system. Kyrie has never openly attacked LeBron, but he's repeated the same idea over the years. Playing with LeBron is a different animal, not in a positive way, but because of the pressure, politics, and power dynamics. On LeBron's team, players aren't judged by their own growth. They're judged by how well they serve LeBron's goals. Individuality fades, leadership gets muted, and the narrative always centers on one man. A huge part of this traces back to LeBron's Miami years under Pat Riley. Before Miami, LeBron was brilliant but emotional and sometimes unpredictable. Riley changed that. He taught discipline, structure, and how to operate with total control. That era produced a more polished, calculated LeBron, but it also taught him how to manage everything around the game. Kyrie has hinted that LeBron didn't just learn how to dominate on the court, he learned how to run the entire operation. The media, the messaging, the perception, stories were shaped, filtered, and spun long before the public ever saw them. No matter what happened, the narrative always bent back toward LeBron as the hero. That reality hit Kyrie hardest during the 2016 finals. Game 7, tie game, under a minute left. Kyrie steps back over Steph Curry and drains the shot that seals Cleveland's first championship in 52 years. It was one of the coldest, most iconic shots in NBA history, exactly the kind of moment that should define a career forever. But when Kyrie turned on the TV, he didn't see his shot replayed. He saw LeBron's chase down block on repeat. The story of the championship quickly became LeBron's redemption arc, capped off by LeBron publicly declaring that title made him the greatest of all time. Kyrie, who averaged 27 points in the finals and hit the game winner, became a background character in his own moment. The pattern continued. In the 2017 finals, Kyrie was again elite, battling Kevin Durant head-to-head while the Warriors dominated. Durant clearly outplayed LeBron, yet when Cleveland lost, the criticism didn't stick to LeBron. It never did. Kyrie took heat, role players were blamed, and coaches were questioned, while LeBron's image remained untouched. After living through all of that, Kyrie began to see the bigger picture. This wasn't just basketball, it was power, narrative control, and who gets to own the story when the cameras stop rolling. And now, years later, with one calm sentence, Kyrie is hinting that he's finally ready to tell the version of that story we've never heard, where you can direct a voice, create realistic dialogue, and so much more. Edit these placeholders to get started.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not just one player that you have to promote. Like, we had like solid players on our team. When you're playing with somebody like Bron or somebody that you guys like to compare him to, it's a different animal. It's a different journey. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're automatically expected to be at the top of the charts, the top of the league. You know, every time you play with Bron, it's going to be a lot of media attention. It's going to be a lot of back and forth of narratives. It's going to be about a lot of spun narratives. It's going to be a lot of politics. It's going to be a lot of shit that a lot of people don't see in front of the camera. And for me, I was just a young person trying to figure it out. You know what I mean? It's not that I disliked playing with Bron at any time. It was just literally, it was my time to move on. And that's what people got to accept. They want a deeper, detailed dive in terms of what happened. It's like, it was my...
Less than a month after that brutal finals loss, everything flipped again. And this time it felt like pure betrayal. Whispers began circulating around the league that Kyrie Irving might be on the trading block. This was the same player who had hit the shot that delivered Cleveland its first championship in over 50 years. The same player who carried enormous responsibility through back-to-back finals runs. One moment he was the city's savior, and the next he was being discussed like a disposable asset in someone else's long-term plan. Reports even suggested that members of LeBron's inner circle were quietly exploring the idea that moving on from Kyrie could somehow fix things, as if the 2016 title had never happened. The disrespect didn't stop there. Fans jumped into the frenzy, firing up trade machines and debating hypothetical returns like Kyrie was just another contract to flip. After everything he had done, he was suddenly being framed as the problem. That was the breaking point. Kyrie had had enough of the politics, the fake smiles, and being treated like a side character in someone else's legacy. He walked into the front office and demanded a trade. In doing so, he became the first true superstar of LeBron's era to reclaim control of his own story. While other stars who played alongside LeBron either joined him willingly or were quietly phased out, Dwayne Wade late in his career, Chris Bosh before health issues, Kevin Love as his role diminished, Kyrie did what none of them dared to do. He left by choice. That decision shattered the illusion. It exposed how the so-called LeBron ecosystem only works when everyone else accepts their assigned role and understands they are replaceable. Kyrie refused to bow to that reality, and from that moment on, he became public enemy number one. What followed wasn't normal criticism. It felt calculated and personal. Media outlets, analysts, and podcasts suddenly lined up to tear him apart. His leadership in Boston was questioned, his injuries were framed as excuses, and his personality was attacked as moody, strange, and difficult. Overnight, the narrative flipped from Kyrie the hero to Kyrie the villain, with every struggle used as proof that he couldn't succeed without LeBron. None of it matched what was happening on the court. Kyrie was still producing elite numbers and remained one of the most gifted scorers in basketball. But the story had already been written, and no performance could undo it. Once he stepped outside the system that controlled the narrative, he stopped being part of the fairy tale and became a threat to it. Soon the criticism spread beyond basketball. Headlines, debates, and public scrutiny surrounded him nonstop, attacking not just his decisions but his character. He went from widely respected to deeply polarizing almost overnight, turning into a symbol people could twist however they wanted. A huge portion of that backlash came from LeBron's fan base, who treated Kyrie's independence as a personal offense, as if him standing on his own somehow disrespected LeBron's legacy. Through all of it, LeBron himself remained completely silent. No support, no defense, no public acknowledgement. That silence spoke volumes. While LeBron stayed above the fray, his fans and media allies shaped the narrative, keeping his image untouchable while Kyrie absorbed the damage. This was exactly what Kyrie meant when he talked about off-camera politics. LeBron didn't need to say anything. The machine moved on its own. But the story didn't end with Kyrie breaking under pressure. He didn't fold or let the noise define him. Instead, he reinvented himself. When he landed in Dallas, he found something he had been searching for his entire career: real peace. Not the forced smiles or polished image, but the kind that comes from knowing exactly who you are. On the court, he played the most locked-in, balanced basketball of his career, efficient, sharp, and unbothered. Off the court, he became a respected veteran, a mentor to younger players, and a leader who no longer needed the spotlight to validate his impact.